The sky above the mining colony turned dark purple as Teeman checked the weather monitors one last time. He had seen bad storms before, but this one looked different. The readings showed electromagnetic activity 3 times higher than normal. Everyone on Viridian 7 knew what that meant. They had maybe 2 hours before the storm hit. Teeman worked as the medical officer at the small clinic on the edge of the colony. His job was simple enough most days. Fix broken bones, treat minor infections, and help the various alien species that worked in the mines when they got sick. He knew a little about treating humans and a little about treating aliens. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it was not. He walked through the clinic, making sure all the emergency supplies were ready. Extra batteries, medical scanners, bandages, and medicines filled the storage cabinets. The building shook slightly as wind began to pick up outside. Through the window, Teeman watched workers running between buildings, securing loose equipment and closing heavy storm shutters. The warning sirens started their low wail across the colony. That meant 1 hour left. Teeman grabbed his jacket and stepped outside to close the clinic's outer shutters. The wind pulled at his clothes and hair. In the distance, purple lightning cracked across the dark clouds, followed by thunder that seemed to shake his chest. He was reaching for the last shutter when he heard it. A scratching sound. Metal on metal. Something was at the clinic door, trying to get in. Teeman froze. Large predators sometimes wandered near the colony during storms, confused by the electromagnetic interference. He moved slowly back toward the door, listening. The scratching came again, more desperate this time. Then a sound that was definitely not an animal. A voice, rough and strained, speaking words he could almost understand through a translator device. Someone needed help. Teeman hit the door release. The heavy door slid open and he jumped back in shock. A massive creature lay half-collapsed in the doorway. It looked like the ancient dragons from Earth legends, with scales that shimmered green and gold, 4 powerful legs, and wings that stretched wider than the doorway. One wing hung at a wrong angle, the thin membrane torn and bleeding. The creature's eyes met his. They were intelligent, afraid, and pleading. The translator on a chain around its neck crackled with static but managed to form words. "Help, please, Storm!" Teeman knew this species from the colony databases. Draken. They were rare visitors to this part of space, proud and powerful. This one was clearly male, probably young, and definitely dying if Teeman left him outside. The storm was minutes away now. The sky had turned almost black, and the wind screamed between buildings. "Come on!" Teeman shouted over the wind. Inside now. The Draken tried to move, but his legs buckled. Teeman grabbed one massive foreleg and pulled. The creature was incredibly heavy, but fear and adrenaline gave Teeman extra strength. Inch by inch, they moved through the doorway. As soon as the tail cleared the threshold, Teeman hit the door control. The door slammed shut just as the first real blast of storm wind hit the building. The clinic lights flickered. Teeman ran to turn on the emergency power system. When he came back, the Draken had collapsed completely on the floor, his breathing harsh and wet. Each breath whistled and rattled in his chest. That was bad. Very bad. Teeman pulled out his medical scanner and ran it over the creature's body. The wing was broken in 3 places. That would heal on its own if the Draken survived. But the lungs showed fluid buildup and severe inflammation. The creature's body temperature was dropping fast, which made no sense. Draken were supposed to generate their own heat like living furnaces. "What is your name?" Teeman asked, kneeling beside the massive head. The translator crackled. Rith, I am Teeman. I'm going to help you, but I need to know what happened." Rith's chest heaved with effort. "Scouting. From my ship. Storm came fast. Caught me, fell, something in the air. Cannot breathe." Teeman understood. The storm's electromagnetic radiation was interfering with Rith's natural heat generation. Combined with whatever infection or reaction was filling his lungs, the Draken was going into shock. Without treatment, he would be dead in hours. The problem was simple. Teeman had almost no information about Draken biology. His medical database had basic anatomy, but nothing about proper treatment. He would have to guess, to improvise, and hope that Draken biology was close enough to other species he had treated. He ran to the medicine cabinet and grabbed everything he thought might help. Bronchodilators to open the airways, anti-inflammatory drugs to reduce the swelling, and finally he grabbed a bottle of thick, mentholated cough syrup. It was designed for humans with severe chest colds. The menthol would help clear the airways, and the other ingredients would suppress the violent coughing that was shaking. Wraith's whole body, Teeman calculated dosages based on body mass and hoped for the best. He injected the medications directly into Wraith's bloodstream using a large veterinary needle. Then he poured the thick syrup into a bowl and held it to Wraith's mouth. "Drink this." "All of it," Wraith did not argue. He lapped up the syrup with a long, forked tongue. His face twisted at the taste, but he finished it all. Next came the warming. Teeman pulled out every thermal blanket in the clinic and piled them over Wraith's body. He set up portable heaters in a circle around the Draken and turned them all on high. The clinic became uncomfortably hot, but Wraith's temperature readings slowly began to rise. Outside, the storm hit with full force. The building shook constantly. The lights went out completely, and the emergency system kicked in with dim red lighting. Thunder crashed so loudly that Teeman could not hear himself think. Through the reinforced walls, he heard debris slamming into the building. For 3 days, the storm raged. For 3 days, Teeman stayed by Wraith's side, monitoring his breathing, adjusting medications, and keeping him warm. They could not communicate much. The storm interference made the translator work only occasionally, but they did not need words. Teeman brought water and nutrient paste. Wraith drank and ate when he could. Slowly, Wraith improved. His breathing became easier. Color returned to his scales. The terrible whistling in his chest faded to normal breathing. On the morning of the 4th day, the storm broke. Sunlight streamed through the window cracks, and the wind finally stopped. Wraith lifted his head and looked at Teeman with clear eyes. The translator worked properly now. "You saved my life, human. My ship will come for me soon. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. What is your name again?" "Teeman. Teeman. I will not forget." 2 hours later, a sleek ship descended from the sky. Several Draken emerged and carefully loaded Wraith onto a transport stretcher. Before they took him away, Wraith looked back at Teeman. "We will meet again, friend. I promise." Then they were gone, and Teeman was alone in his damaged clinic, already planning the cleanup work. He never imagined that 6 days later everything would go terribly wrong. 6 days passed quickly. Teeman spent most of that time repairing the clinic. The storm had damaged the roof and broken several windows. He worked alone, patching holes and replacing equipment. The colony slowly returned to normal operations. Miners went back to work. Ships came and went. Life continued as it always did on VE. RIDIAN-7.TAEMIN was organizing medical supplies when his communication device beeped with an incoming signal. The frequency was not one used by the colony. He accepted the call, and a Draken face appeared on the small screen. This one was female, with silver blue scales and sharp, intelligent eyes. "Are you the human called Teeman?" Her voice was cold and formal. "Yes, that is me. I am Vesh, medical officer aboard the Draken vessel Starwing. We have an emergency. Wraith is dying. You will come immediately." Teeman felt his stomach drop. "What happened?" "He was recovering when he left." "That is what we need you to explain. A shuttle is already on its way to collect you. Bring all medical records and supplies related to his treatment. You have 20 minutes. The screen went dark. Teeman stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing. Dying? How could Wraith be dying? He had been fine, getting better every day. Unless something had gone wrong with the treatment. Unless Teeman had made a terrible mistake, he grabbed his medical kit and loaded it with supplies. He downloaded all his notes and scans from the treatment onto a datapad. His hands shook slightly as he worked. 19 minutes later, a Draken shuttle landed outside the clinic. 2 large Draken guards gestured for him to board. Neither spoke to him during the flight. The Starwing was a beautiful ship, all smooth curves and gleaming metal. Inside, the corridors were huge, built for creatures 3 times the size of a human. Timon felt like a child walking through an adult world. Everything was too big, too high, too far apart. The guards led him deep into the ship. They passed other Draken crew members who stared at him with suspicious eyes. No one spoke. Finally, they reached the medical bay. The doors opened to reveal a large room filled with advanced equipment that Timon only half recognized. Vesh waited inside. Behind her on a massive medical bed lay Rith. Timon barely recognized him. The Draken scales had lost their shine and were peeling in places. His breathing was rapid and shallow. Medical monitors showed readings that even Timon could tell were bad. What did you give him? Vesh demanded. Timon approached the bed slowly. I treated him for respiratory distress and hypothermia. I used bronchodilators, anti-inflammatory medication, and human cough syrup with menthol. Human medicine. You gave a Draken human medicine? Vesh's voice dripped with anger. Do you have any idea what you have done? Before Timon could answer, another Draken entered the room. This one was even larger than Rith, with darker scales and eyes that burned with barely controlled rage. A translator identified him as Krau, captain of the ship and Ryth's brother. This is the human? Krau moved toward Timon with frightening speed. This is the creature that poisoned my brother? I did not poison him, Timon said, trying to keep his voice steady. I saved his life during the storm. And now he dies from your cure. Krau loomed over Timon. Look at him. His scales are rotting. His organs are failing. His immune system is destroying itself. All because of your human poison. Vesh pulled up a display showing detailed scans of Ryth's body. We found traces of your medications in his blood. The chemical analysis shows compounds that are toxic to Draken biology. The reaction was delayed, but now it is killing him. Timon stared at the scans, his mind working frantically. That does not make sense. The medicine helped him. He was breathing normally when he left. His temperature had stabilized. 6 days ago, Vesh said coldly. And now, 6 days later, he is dying. The symptoms match delayed toxic poisoning. There is no other explanation. Timon moved closer to examine Ryth. The Draken's eyes opened slightly, recognizing him. Friend, Ryth whispered through his translator. Not your fault. Be silent, Krau snapped at his brother. To the guards he said, take the human to a holding cell. He will remain there until we decide what to do with him. Wait, Timon protested. Let me look at the data. Let me try to understand what happened. If I made a mistake, I want to fix it. You have done enough damage, Vesh said. Your human medicine has no place treating our people. This was foolishness, and now Ryth pays the price. The guards grabbed Timon's arms. As they dragged him toward the door, he saw Ryth try to lift his head in protest, but the effort was too much. The Draken collapsed back onto the bed, his breathing becoming more labored. They locked Timon in a small room with a single window looking out into space. He sat on the hard bench and tried to think. Something was wrong with their analysis. He had treated dozens of different species with adapted medications. You had to be creative in frontier medicine. The idea was always the same. Find the biological similarities and use them. Draken had lungs. They breathed oxygen. They had blood that carried nutrients. In those ways, they were like humans. The medications should have worked, at least temporarily. And they had worked. Ryth had recovered. So why was he sick now? Why 6 days later? Timon pulled out his datapad. The guards had not taken it from him. He reviewed his notes from the treatment, comparing them to what Vesh had shown him. The toxic compounds in Ryth's blood were definitely related to the medications he had given. But something about them was different. The molecular structure had changed. A quiet sound made him look up. A young Draken stood outside the door, watching him through the small window. This one was smaller than the others, with bright green scales and curious eyes. The door opened slightly. I am Hana, the young Draken said quietly. I studied medicine on human worlds. I do not think you tried to hurt. Thank you, Timon said. Can you help me? I need access to medical databases. I need to compare Draken and human biology. Something caused those medications to become toxic, but I need to understand what. Hannah looked nervous. Vesh would be angry. Krau might space me for helping you. Rithwith will die if we do nothing, Teeman said simply. Is that what you want? Hannah hesitated, then nodded. I will get you access, but you must work quickly and quietly. If they catch us, we are both in serious trouble. She handed him a small device through the door. This will connect you to our medical database. You have maybe a few hours before someone notices. Use them well. As Hannah disappeared down the corridor, Teeman activated the device and began searching through data. Somewhere in all this information was an answer. He just had to find it before Rith ran out of time. Hours passed. Teeman read everything he could find about Draken biology, comparing it to human systems. He reviewed the storm data from Viridian 7. He analyzed the chemical breakdowns Vesh had shown him. And slowly, piece by piece, he began to understand. The answer was not in the medicine itself. The answer was in the storm. The electromagnetic radiation from those purple lightning strikes had done something that no one had considered. Something that changed everything. Teeman jumped to his feet and banged on the door. Guards, I need to speak to Vesh immediately. I know what happened. I know how to save Rythe. The guards ignored him. He kept banging, kept shouting, until finally Hannah appeared again. What did you find? She asked. The radiation, Teeman said urgently. The storm radiation. It altered the molecular structure of the medications in Rythe's body. They were safe during the storm, but after the radiation faded, the molecules started reverting to a different form. A toxic form. That is why the reaction was delayed. That is why he is sick now. Hannah's eyes widened. Can you prove this? Yes, but I need to show Vesh and Krau. I need to convince them to let me try a treatment. If I am right, Rith has maybe 2 days left. After that, the damage will be permanent. Hannah looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. I will try. But Teeman, if you are wrong about this, they will kill you. You understand that, right? I understand, Teeman said. But if I am right and do nothing, Rythe dies anyway. I would rather die trying to save him than live knowing I could have helped. Hannah left again, and Teeman waited in the small room, watching the stars outside the window and praying he was right. Hannah returned 3 hours later. Her scales looked darker, stress showing in the way she held herself. They will listen to you? But Teeman Krau is ready to throw you out an airlock. You get one chance to explain. If your theory is wrong, or if it sounds like you are making excuses, he will end this conversation permanently. Teeman nodded. I understand. The guards escorted him back to the medical bay. Krau stood beside his brother's bed, one massive claw resting protectively on Wraith's shoulder. Vesh examined readouts on a display screen, her expression grim. Several other crew members had gathered, including a navigator named Bora with deep red scales and ancient eyes that seemed to look through Teeman rather than at him. Speak, Krau commanded. And choose your words carefully, human. Teeman stepped forward, holding up his datapad. I made a mistake, but not the one you think. The medications I gave Rythe were safe. They worked. They saved his life during the storm. The problem is what happened after the storm ended. Explain, Vesh said coldly. Teeman pulled up his data and projected it onto the main display. The electromagnetic storms on Viridian 7 are unique. They generate radiation that operates at quantum levels. This radiation can alter molecular structures temporarily. While the storm was active, everything exposed to it, including Red's body and the medications I gave him, existed in an altered state. He changed the display to show molecular diagrams. During those 3 days, the medications bonded with Rythe's system perfectly. His body accepted them because both his cells and the medicine molecules were equally affected by the radiation. They matched. Krau growled. If they matched, why is my brother dying? Because the radiation effect is temporary, Teeman explained. It takes about 6 days for the altered molecules to fully revert to their original structure. As the radiation faded from Ryth's body, the medicine molecules began changing back. But Ryth's cells changed back at a different rate. The medications that saved him became poison because they no longer matched his biology. Vesh studied the data carefully. This is speculation. We have no documentation of such an effect. Actually, Bora spoke up for the first time, her old voice crackling, we do. In our ancient histories, there are stories of something we called ghost sickness. Warriors who were healed during celestial storms sometimes fell ill days later. We thought they were myths, warnings about accepting help from sky spirits. But what if they were real accounts? Krau looked at the old navigator. You believe this, human? Bora tilted her head. I believe the data, and I believe our ancestors were not fools. They documented something. Perhaps this is what they saw. Teeman felt a small spark of hope. I can prove my theory. Look at Ryth's cellular scans from when he first arrived on your ship. You will see trace amounts of the storm radiation still present. Compare that to his current scans. The radiation levels have dropped significantly, and the timing matches perfectly with when his symptoms began. Vesh pulled up the comparative scans. Her eyes widened slightly. The correlation is there. The radiation decay matches the symptom timeline exactly. She turned to Krau. Captain, he might be correct. Might be, Krau repeated. My brother's life hangs on, might be? Your brother's life hangs on us doing something quickly, Teeman said firmly. According to my calculations, the cascade effect in his immune system will reach a critical point in less than 2 days. After that, even if we fix the molecular problem, the damage to his organs will be too severe. He will die. Silence filled the medical bay. Ryth's labored breathing was the only sound. Finally, the sick Draken opened his eyes and spoke weakly through his translator. Let him try. I trust Teeman. He saved me once. Let him try again. Krau looked at his brother, pain evident in his expression. If I allow this and you die, I will have failed to protect you. If you do nothing, I die anyway, Ryth said. At least this way there is hope. Krau turned to Teeman, his voice dropping to a dangerous level. What do you propose? Teeman took a deep breath. We need to neutralize the altered molecules before they can do more damage. I suggest using medical nanites programmed to bond with the corrupted compounds and break them down. But the programming has to be incredibly precise. We need to target only the altered molecules, not the normal ones in Ryth's system. I have worked with medical nanites, Vesh said slowly. But never for something this complex. The programming would take days to perfect, and we would need extensive knowledge of both human pharmaceutical chemistry and Draken cellular biology. I can handle the human chemistry, Teeman said. And I have another human doctor who can help. Her name is Jiwan. She works at the colony and specializes in radiation medicine. Between the three of us, we can do this. Krau looked at Vesh. Is it possible? The medical officer hesitated, then nodded. Theoretically, yes. Practically, I give it a 40% chance of success. The programming must be perfect. One mistake and the nanites could attack healthy cells instead of corrupted ones. That would kill him faster than the current condition. And if we do nothing? Krau asked. 0% chance of survival, Vesh said flatly. Krau closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, he looked at Teeman with an expression that mixed desperation with threat. You may try, but understand this, human. If my brother dies because of your treatment, your life is forfeit. You will not leave this ship alive. I understand, Teeman said. I do not accept that, Ryth said weakly. Teeman saves me or he does not. Either way, he goes free? Swear it, brother. Krau's tightened, but he bowed his head to Ryth. I swear. The human will not be harmed regardless of the outcome. You have my word. Teeman felt relief wash through him, followed immediately by the crushing weight of responsibility. Ryth's life was truly in his hands now. Hana, Vesh called out. Contact the human colony. Bring this Jiwan here immediately. Tell her to bring any equipment related to radiation treatment. To Teeman, she said, We have work to do. I hope you are as clever as you believe you are, human. Because my medical knowledge alone will not be enough for this. We will figure it out together, Timon said. Vesh gave him a long look. I judged you harshly when you arrived. I believed you were a reckless fool who had poisoned Ray through ignorance. But you saved him during that storm without proper knowledge or equipment. That took skill and courage. If you're right about this radiation effect, it took brilliance to figure it out. She paused. I still do not like working with humans. But I respect ability when I see it. I will take that as a compliment, Timon said with a small smile. Do not let it go to your head, Vesh replied. But there was the slightest hint of warmth in her voice. Now come. We have a treatment to design and time is not our friend. They worked through the night, Timon and Vesh side by side at the medical computers. They argued about cellular structures and chemical bonds. They debated nanite programming parameters. Slowly, grudgingly, they began to understand each other's medical approaches. Draken medicine was precise and methodical. Human medicine was adaptive and creative. Together, they covered each other's weaknesses. When Jiwan arrived 6 hours later, she brought fresh perspectives and deep knowledge of radiation effects. Hannah coordinated the massive data streams they were generating, proving invaluable at organizing the complex information. Bora sat in the corner, watching everything and occasionally offering insights from ancient Draken, medical practices that surprisingly aligned with their modern approach. Wraith's condition continued to deteriorate. His breathing became more labored. His scales began to crack and weep fluid. But the team worked with focused intensity, racing against time and death itself. Finally, after 16 hours of continuous work, Vesh leaned back from the computer. I think we have it. The program should target only the radiation-altered molecules. It will be aggressive but specific. Timon reviewed the code one more time. It is as good as we can make it. The question is whether good is good enough. Kral had remained in the medical bay the entire time, never leaving his brother's side. Now he stood and approached the team. Are you ready? Yes, Vesh said. Then begin, Kral said. And may whatever gods you believe in grant you success. Timon looked at Wraith's weakening form and silently agreed. They were going to need all the help they could get. Vesh prepared the first injection of nanites with hands that did not shake despite the pressure. Timon watched her work, impressed by her steady control. Jiwan monitored Wraith's vital signs on 3 different displays simultaneously. Hana stood ready with emergency medications in case something went wrong immediately. Kral remained at his brother's side, one claw resting on Rith's shoulder. The nanites will take approximately 30 seconds to spread throughout his bloodstream, Vesh explained as she loaded the injection device. Once distributed, they will begin seeking their programmed targets. We should see initial results within 5 minutes. And if something goes wrong? Kral asked, his voice tight. We will know immediately, Jiwan said quietly. His immune response will spike, his blood pressure will drop, and we will have perhaps 2 minutes to counteract the reaction. That is not comforting, Kral growled. It is honest, Timon said. That is better than false hope. Vesh positioned the injection device against Wraith's scaled foreleg, finding the major blood vessel beneath. Wraith, if you can hear me, this may hurt. Try to remain still. Wraith's eyes opened slightly. Do it, he whispered. Vesh activated the device. The nanite solution flowed into Wraith's bloodstream with a soft hiss. Everyone held their breath, watching the monitors. 30 seconds passed in silence, broken only by the beeping of medical equipment. Then Wraith convulsed violently, his whole body arched off the medical bed. Alarms shrieked as his vital signs spiked dangerously. Temperature climbing, blood pressure dropping, heart rate erratic. Kral roared and grabbed for the injection device, but Vesh blocked him. Wait, she commanded. This is expected. The nanites are engaging the corrupted molecules. His body is reacting to the chemical battle happening inside him. Expected? Kral shouted. He is dying right now. Timon moved to Wraith's other side, checking the detailed cellular scans. The nanites are working. Look, the corrupted compounds are being broken down. His immune system is fighting, but the nanites are winning. Jiwan injected a stabilizing compound to help manage Wraith's blood pressure. Heart rate stabilizing. Temperature still climbing, but within survivable range. The convulsions continued for another 3 minutes that felt like hours. Then, gradually, Wraith's body relaxed. The alarms quieted. The vital signs, while still dangerous, stopped their wild fluctuations and began trending towards stability. Vesh examined the bloodwork analysis. 15% of the corrupted molecules have been neutralized. The nanites are functioning as programmed. Only 15%? Krall looked at the team with accusation in his eyes. In 5 minutes, Tiemann pointed out. At this rate, we will clear the majority of them within a few hours. But we cannot do it all at once. The chemical byproducts of breaking down the molecules are toxic themselves. His kidneys and liver need time to filter them out. How many more doses will he need? Krall asked. 3 more, spaced 8 hours apart, Vesh said. Each dose will be more effective than the last because there will be fewer corrupted molecules interfering with the nanite's work. Wraith opened his eyes fully for the first time in days. That hurt, he said through his translator, his voice weak but clear. You are still alive to feel pain, Krall said, relief evident despite his gruff tone. That is something. How do you feel? Tiemann asked, moving closer. Like I was struck by lightning from the inside, Ruth said. But I can breathe better. The pressure in my chest is less. V1 checked the lung scans. The inflammation is decreasing. Whatever the nanites are doing, it is helping. The team settled into a pattern. They monitored Wraith constantly, watching as his body slowly processed the first wave of nanite activity. The toxic byproducts moved through his system, filtered out by organs that were strained but functional. 8 hours later, they administered the second dose. This time, the reaction was less violent. Wraith still convulsed, but for a shorter duration and with less intensity. The nanites had an easier job with fewer corrupted molecules to fight. 40% of the altered compounds were neutralized after this dose. It is working, Vesh said, allowing herself a small smile. The progression is better than I predicted. Tiemann felt exhaustion pulling at him. He had been awake for over 30 hours straight. But he could not rest, not while Wraith's life still hung in the balance. Jiwan brought him stimulant drinks and forced him to eat protein bars. Hannah did the same for Vesh, who also refused to leave the medical bay. Bora brought them traditional Draken tea, modified to be safe for humans. In the old days, the navigator said, healers would stay with the sick for days without sleep. It was considered honorable, a mark of dedication. I see that honor is not limited to Draken. We are too stubborn to quit, Jiwan said with a tired smile. Stubbornness is also a form of honor, Bora replied. The third dose went even more smoothly. Wraith barely reacted beyond some muscle tension and elevated temperature. The nanites cleared another 30% of the corrupted molecules, bringing the total to 85% neutralized. Wraith's color improved noticeably. His scales began to regain some of their shine. His breathing became almost normal. Krall finally allowed himself to sit down. The strain of watching his brother suffer had carved lines into his face that Tiemann had not noticed before. Will the fourth dose finish it? The captain asked. It should clear the remaining corrupted molecules, Vesh confirmed. But then we need to deal with the organ damage. The cascade effect hurt his liver, kidneys, and lungs. They will heal, but slowly. How long? Krall asked. Weeks, possibly months for full recovery, Tiemann said. But he will recover. That is what matters. The fourth and final dose was administered 40 hours after they had started treatment. By this point, Wraith was conscious and alert enough to joke weakly with the medical team. The nanites did their work with minimal reaction. Within 2 hours, the scans showed less than 1% of corrupted molecules remaining. Wraith's immune system could handle that small amount on its own. Vesh ran a complete diagnostic series. All critical functions are stable. The cascade failure has been stopped and partially reversed. He is out of immediate danger. The medical bay erupted in quiet celebration. Jiwan hugged Tiemann. Hannah did a small dance of joy. Even Vesh allowed herself a genuine smile. Kral simply bowed his head and whispered something in the Draken language that the translators did not catch. But Timon assumed was a prayer of thanks. Ryth tried to sit up, but Vesh pushed him back down firmly. You will rest. You are stable, not healed. Move too much and you will undo our work. Yes, doctor, Ryth said, but his eyes were bright with life again. Timon collapsed into a chair, the adrenaline that had kept him going finally fading. His hands shook with exhaustion and relief. Jiwan sat beside him, looking equally drained. We did it, she said quietly. You did it, Kral said, approaching them. The massive Draken knelt down to put himself at eye level with the two humans. I swore I would kill you if my brother died. Instead, I owe you a debt beyond measure. You saved him twice. You risked your life to prove your theory. And you worked without sleep to perfect a treatment that our own medicine could not provide. He placed one claw gently on Timon's shoulder. I called you reckless. I called you a poisoner. I was wrong. You are a healer of the highest order. We all work together, Timon said. Vesh, Jiwan, Hana, even Bora contributed. This was not one person's success. He is right, Vesh said. I have learned something important from this. Human medicine is different from ours, but not inferior. Your adaptability and creative thinking saved Ryth. My precision and methodology made that creativity effective. Together we achieved what neither could have done alone. Kral stood. Then all of you have earned the gratitude of the Starwing and the Draken people. Rest now, you have earned it. When Ryth is recovered, we will discuss how to properly honor what you have done. As the team finally dispersed to sleep, Timon took one last look at Ryth. The Draken met his eyes and nodded slowly, a gesture of respect that crossed species boundaries. Timon nodded back, then followed Jiwan to the guest quarters the ship had prepared. He collapsed onto the sleeping platform and was unconscious within seconds. His dreams filled not with nightmares of failure, but with the quiet satisfaction of a life saved against impossible odds. Timon slept for 14 hours straight. When he finally woke, his first thought was of Ryth. He found his way back to the medical bay, still adjusting to the oversized corridors. Inside, he discovered Ryth sitting up in bed, eating something that looked like crystallized fruit. The Draken's scales had regained most of their shine, and his eyes were clear and alert. The healer awakens, Ryth said through his translator, his tone amused. I was beginning to think the treatment exhausted you more than it exhausted me. How are you feeling? Timon asked, approaching the bed. Weak, but alive. Sore, but healing. Ryth extended one claw toward Timon. Twice now you have saved my life. That is not a debt easily repaid among my people. Timon touched the offered claw gently, understanding it was a gesture of respect. I am just glad it worked. For a while there, I was not certain it would. Vesh tells me the treatment you designed will change medicine for many species, Ryth said. She has been documenting everything for the Draken Medical Consortium. As if summoned by her name, Vesh entered the medical bay carrying data pads. Jiwan and Hana followed behind her. The silver-blue Draken looked more relaxed than Timon had ever seen her. Good, you are all here, Vesh said. I have been preparing a formal report on the treatment. The consortium wants to publish our findings. This radiation-induced molecular transformation could affect treatment across dozens of species, not just Draken. We should publish it together, Jiwan suggested. All of us who contributed. Vesh nodded. I agree. The paper will list all 5 of us as co-authors, Vesh, Timon, Jiwan, Hana, and Bora for her historical insights. She looked at Timon. The consortium has also requested that you present our findings at their annual medical conference. They want to hear directly from the human who figured this out. Timon felt overwhelmed. I have never presented to such a large audience. You saved a Draken's life twice and discovered a new medical phenomenon, Hana said with enthusiasm. You can certainly talk about it to some doctors. Over the next week, Ryth continued to recover rapidly. His natural healing abilities, once the corrupted molecules were removed, proved impressive. The damaged organs repaired themselves faster than Vesh had predicted. Within 10 days, Ryth was walking around the ship. Though still under strict orders not to overexert himself, the crew's attitude toward Teeman changed completely. Where once they had viewed him with suspicion, now they greeted him warmly. They invited him to meals, showed him parts of the ship, and asked questions about human culture and medicine. Laura spent hours telling him stories of ancient Draken history, many of which involved misunderstandings between species that were eventually resolved through courage and trust. On the 10th day, Crowl called a formal gathering in the ship's main hall. The entire crew assembled, nearly 50 Draken of various sizes and colors. Teeman, Jiwan, and Hannah stood together, feeling very small in the crowd of massive beings. Crowl stood at the front with Ryth beside him, now fully recovered and strong. "Today we honor those who saved one of our own," the captain announced, his voice carrying through the hall. "Among Draken, there is a tradition older than our spacefaring history. When someone risks everything to save a life, especially crossing the boundaries of their own kind to help another species, we name them Flame Brother or Flame Sister. It is the highest honor we can give." He gestured to Teeman. "Teeman, human of Viridian 7, you pulled my brother from death's door not once but twice. You risked your own life and freedom to prove your theory. You worked without rest to perfect a cure. You are worthy of this honor." Crowl produced a pendant on a chain, similar to the translator devices but marked with glowing symbols. "I name you Flame Brother. You are now counted as family among the Draken people." Teeman bowed his head as Crowl placed the pendant around his neck. The assembled crew stomped their feet in rhythmic approval, the sound thunderous in the enclosed space. Crowl performed similar ceremonies for Jiwan and Hannah, naming them both Flame Sisters. When all three humans wore the pendants, Ryth stepped forward. "I have a request," Ryth announced. "Teeman, you saved my life. You showed me that humans possess not just intelligence but compassion and courage. I have seen how you work, how you think, how you care for those in your charge." He paused. "The Star Wing is an exploration vessel. We travel to distant systems, encounter unknown species, and face dangers both known and unexpected. We need a medical officer who can adapt, who can solve problems that have no standard answers, who can bridge the gap between different forms of life." Teeman felt his heart start to race. He knew what was coming. "Join our crew," Ryth said simply. "Be our ship's doctor." Vesh agrees that having both Draken and human medical knowledge aboard would benefit everyone. "We can learn from each other. And I would be honored to call you crewmate as well as Flame Brother." The offer hung in the air. Teeman looked at Jiwan, who smiled and nodded encouragingly. He thought about his small clinic on Viridian 7, the quiet routine of colony life. Then he thought about the past weeks, the challenge of the impossible problem, the satisfaction of succeeding through cooperation and determination. "What about the colony clinic?" Teeman asked. "People there depend on it." Jiwan stepped forward. "I will take over. I have been thinking about staying on Viridian 7 permanently anyway. The colony can use a dedicated doctor, and I would be happy to do it. You should take this opportunity, Teeman. This is a chance to make a real difference across multiple worlds. Not just one colony." Teeman looked at the assembled Draken crew, at Ryth's hopeful expression, at Vesh's approving nod, at Hannah's excited grin. He thought about all the species in the galaxy, all the medical mysteries waiting to be solved, all the lives that might be saved by combining different approaches to healing. "I accept," Teeman said. "But I have one condition." Crowl raised an eyebrow ridge. "Name it." "Medical knowledge should not be hoarded by any one species," Teeman said firmly. "What we learned from treating Ryth could help countless others. I want this ship to participate in a medical exchange program. We share what we learn with other species, and they share with us. Real cooperation, real knowledge exchange. That is how we prevent tragedies and save lives." Crowl looked at Ryth, then at Vesh. Both nodded. "Agreed," the captain said. "The Draken fleet will support this initiative. We will establish formal medical exchange protocols with willing species." "You have our word." The crew stomped approval again, louder this time. Teeman felt a weight lift from his shoulders. This was right. This was what he was meant to do. The ceremony ended with a traditional Draken feast. The crew had prepared food suitable for both Draken and human digestion. They celebrated long into the ship's night cycle, telling stories and building friendships across the species divide. Later, Teeman stood at an observation window, looking out at the stars. Ryth joined him, moving quietly for such a large being. "Any regrets?" Ryth asked. "None," Teeman said honestly. "Although I have to admit, when you showed up during that storm, I never imagined it would lead to all this." "Life often surprises us," Ryth said. "That storm brought me to your door. It also created the medical crisis that nearly killed me. But from those challenges came friendship, discovery, and a new path for both of us." He was quiet for a moment. "Thank you, Teeman. Not just for saving my life, but for showing me that the universe is full of good people if you give them a chance." "You gave me a chance too," Teeman pointed out. "You trusted me even when you were dying and everyone else blamed me. That takes courage." Below them, Viridian 7 rotated slowly. Purple lightning flickered across the dark side of the planet, another electromagnetic storm beginning its fury. But this time, Teeman watched it with different eyes. That storm had been the beginning of something important. Hannah approached, carrying 3 cups of the modified Draken tea she had perfected. She handed one to Teeman and one to Ryth. "A toast," she said, raising her cup. "To storms that bring unexpected friends. To medicine that crosses boundaries. And to the future we will build together." They touched cups, the gesture awkward but sincere across their different sizes and species. Teeman sipped the sweet, spicy tea and smiled. Tomorrow, the Starwing would leave orbit and jump to their next destination, a system 3 weeks away where unknown challenges and opportunities waited. He would have a real medical bay to work in, a full crew to care for, and Vesh to argue and collaborate with. "What are you thinking about?" Ryth asked, noticing Teeman's expression. "I am thinking about the next medical crisis," Teeman said honestly. "Whatever comes, we will face it together. And somehow we will find a way through it." "That is the spirit of exploration," Ryth said with approval. "Not just exploring space, but exploring the possibilities of what different species can achieve when they trust each other." Jiwan joined them at the window. Looking down at the planet she would soon call home. "The shuttle leaves in an hour to take me back. I just wanted to say goodbye properly." Teeman hugged his friend. "Thank you for everything. For coming when Ryth needed you. For encouraging me to take this chance." "You would have done the same for me," Jiwan said. "Besides, someone needs to document all your discoveries out here. Send me reports. Let me know what you learn. Maybe someday we will publish a comprehensive guide to cross-species medicine."